Hello and welcome back to Magnetic Masculinity Podcast, where we provide men with practical tools and strategies to bridge the gap between achievement and fulfillment so that they can live their most magnetic lives. Today, we're talking about, call it what you want, law of attraction, law of magnetism, and manifestation. And maybe before we get into the topic, can you describe what it is for people that are listening that might not, or as you usually say, for metaphorical alignment, so that we all know what is it that we're actually talking about here?
Yeah, great. This is a fun episode. I used to do a lot of law of attraction coaching or manifestation coaching, so this is one of my favorite topics. And also one of the most profound tools in my own life. And for those who are familiar with law of attraction or manifestation, and those who are not, it's basically verbalizing the power of the placebo effect, which is one layer of it. So, if you're taking we know that that's good science, right? If we're taking a sugar pill, but we're like, this is really going to cure my ADHD, it actually might very much help. So that's one layer. But the other layer of it is the law of mirroring, or think when we sometimes use that metaphor that you and I are computers, but we are connected to the World Wide Web. What you type into your computer sort of influences what part of the World Wide Web algorithm is going to come up and down. And over time, you are training the World Wide Web to respond to what you are both uploading and downloading. And over time, it decides out of all the seas of pools of information and data and sites and ads, it's deciding which ones you are relating to or mirroring to. A different metaphor would be, depending on what your signal or frequency is, determines what you attract back or what you're able to tune into in the World Wide Web. So it's empowered. I call it empowered manifestation because we already are manifesting or creating our own reality, or at least determining how we react to our reality. So you are manifesting. If you're listening to this, you are a powerful manifester. You are manifesting every minute of the day that you are awake. It just depends on whether you're manifesting consciously or subconsciously. And as we've said in many episodes, it's commonly said that 90 to 95% of our perceptual awareness is subconscious. So the thoughts we think, the actions we choose, the words we speak are subconscious. The emotions we feel are all based on the past, and they're based on subconscious programming. So what's really exciting is bringing into that journey of magnetic masculinity, the authentic alignment and the vehicle of consciousness actually helps you be more aware, and practicing that metacognition actually makes you a more empowered manifester, so that you're not just manifesting or attracting from subconscious fears, negative beliefs, experiential comparison to whatever you experienced in your childhood. So yeah, manifestation, law of attraction, it's very exciting. It's very fun stuff.
So speaking on that, typing, what is it that we're typing? It's affecting what we will be receiving. What are the things that, I'm assuming it might be what you just mentioned, subconscious beliefs and thoughts. What are the things that are affecting what is it that we actually type? And is there a way to first maybe be aware of what is it that the person is actually typing?
So let's look at the ways that we communicate to the universe what we are going to attract back, or what is going to be reflected or mirrored back to us, or what part of the algorithm we will be tuning into. And that's the thoughts we think, the words we speak, and the emotions we feel. Now, often the thoughts we think are based on old subconscious programs. And the thoughts we think trigger the emotions we feel. Like if we think I'm a loser, I'm never going to get this right. Our brain says, okay, I'll insert 5 parts cortisol, 2 parts adrenaline. You're a loser. You're never going to make it. Here's what that feels like. So then we've thought a thought. We've sent that signal out. We've typed that into the browser. And then we felt it and we supercharged it with a really strong signal right onto the World Wide Web. So we've sort of determined what station, again, we're tuning into, or what type of experiences we are going to magnetize back to ourselves or mirror back to ourselves. Not only because of the complexity, the law of consciousness, and the laws of the universe, but also because of the power of the placebo effect. So both of those, we're multidimensional beings. So there's multidimensional aspects of how this works. And modern physics is really starting to catch up to things that we used to think were woo-woo that we're now understanding were just physics we didn't have the equations for yet. So a lot of this is actually very understandable. It's very explainable. It's very logical. And it doesn't matter the thoughts that you thought before. It doesn't matter if you've been thinking negative, poopy thoughts for 4 decades. You can stop right now. So it's not, because one of the things when people start learning about manifestation of the law of attraction that I also experienced, although I didn't learn about it, I learned about it, I'll say intuitively and through observing my own life. And then a couple of years ago, I heard the law of attraction tapes and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I know this kind of. But one of the things that happens is that we start to fear our thoughts. Because then we think, oh, if the thoughts I think manifest something, and I think my husband's being a jerk or my wife's being a jerk, I hope whatever happens, then we think we're going to cause bad things to happen to people, or we're going to, whatever I think is going to come true. And then people suppress or resist their thoughts. And remember, we've talked in previous episode, what we resist persists. So then what's happening is they're actually losing that metacognition and awareness because they're bypassing it or avoiding it or fearing it. So then they're sending a fear signal out. So we don't want to suppress or avoid or fear our thoughts. That's really suboptimal. We just want to use some of the things we've already talked about in previous episodes, like awareness, compassion, radical compassion, metacognition, Socratic questioning. A lot of the tools that we've already covered actually make us naturally more fun manifestors.
So I understand that what you just talked about, the fear of thoughts, could be potentially like one of the barriers towards like manifesting.
Definitely a big barrier.
Are there like any more barriers that are getting in way of manifesting things that we actually want?
Yes. So an example of this is, so first of all, remembering that every minute that you're awake, the thoughts you think, the words you speak, and the emotions you feel are sending out a signal. And how we speak to others, as well as how we speak to ourselves. So let's use an example of this. Say somebody wants to invite more abundance into their life. That's usually something that people can relate to, although I work with a lot of clients who are really, really good at abundance already, but they always think a little more would be fun.
Can you describe what abundance is?
Money.
Okay, got it.
Abundance is money, but also abundance is an energy. So the way people come to me often is, I want more money. I'm like, great, you want to manifest abundance. But abundance is sort of an energy in and of itself, of which money is a part of. So I'm just sort of breaking it up into a more multidimensional understanding. But abundance could be like, I am filled with love. Like I have a lot of abundance in my life. But I have a lot of abundance also in my energy, in my creativity, in my love, in my emotional life, in my mental life. I read books, I'm enriched, my bucket is overflowing. I have a lot of love, a lot of connection, a lot of money, a lot of clients, I'm in a state of magnetic femininity. So, and that's the whole thing about magnetic masculinity, is when you are in that state that all of our tools are helping a man become, you are magnetic. but you're already in authentic alignment. You're effectively piloting your vehicle of consciousness. Therefore, what you attract is going to just be more interesting, fun, and aligned for you than what historically might have happened. And you can have different manifestation in different areas of your life. Like you might be crushing work, crushing education, crushing your physical health, but not crushing relationships, or not crushing having a fulfilling life, or not crushing your leisure activities or your social life, or whatever it is. So we can have different areas where we're very strong and different areas where we have opportunities to strengthen. But that's part of the magnetic masculinity blueprint, is when you're in that authentic alignment, because again, remember, the thoughts we think, the words we speak to ourselves and others, and the emotions we feel, and the beliefs we carry, we talked about that last week, are what are going to create how we are piloting our vehicle of consciousness, what we're putting out there, and therefore what we're receiving and what we are creating. And when you're in that state of magnetic masculinity, where you have that confidence, that clarity, that emotional mastery, that authentic alignment, that powerful vulnerability, those delicious relationships, and you feel fulfilled and clear and inspired and inspiring to others and in flow state, what do you think is going to come to you? More and more and more of that. That is a state of abundance, or being in that magnetic masculinity. But some of the barriers, again, are when people learn this, is they're afraid of their emotions, or they're afraid of their thoughts, because they're like, oh, I can't think a bad thought because then I'm going to manifest it. And again, that's really normal, and I see that a lot, but it's really suboptimal. We don't want to fear our thoughts. We want to let those little ads pop up on our browser. We just don't necessarily want to click on them. Another barrier is that, again, it would be the absence of awareness. So what I mean by that is, if you're just kind of going through the motions in the day and you're not really aware of the thoughts you're thinking, and you're just kind of running on autopilot, then you're not in that driver's seat. So for instance, I have a client, let's go back to that example, who comes saying, I want to manifest or create more abundance or more money, or a soul aligned relationship. Let's say they have a lot of abundance in finance and they have a lot of abundance in career, but they don't have a lot of abundance in relationships. And they might have watched The Law of Attraction or The Secret, and they might put a vision board on their wall of, oh, here's what I want. And I would say, and this is actually an example I had in real life, and I said, that's great. So what are you doing to create or manifest, align yourself, face your vehicle of consciousness to the destination you want to go to? And he said, well, I'm spending 20 minutes a day. I have a vision board. I'm spending 20 minutes a day doing affirmations. And I was like, okay, two things. One, what are you doing for the other 17 hours you're awake? Are you thinking, oh, here I am, lonely again. Where's my wife? Where's my girlfriend? I wish I had a soulmate. Or if it was a money example, oh gosh, look at the price of gas. Oh, I'm never going to be able to afford this. Oh, this car's running, oh, this car's so expensive. Look at all these car payments I have to make. Oh, my business, I have to sink another $5 million into my business. Oh God, there's never enough money. Oh, look at the price of inflation. Okay, now I'm going to go home and manifest abundance for 20 minutes. Well, what did you manifest for 17 hours? So if you're putting, red light, 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 red light to your vehicle of consciousness, green light, which one do you think is going to be more important? Or if you're really feeling lack, and you're feeling that lack of a girlfriend, or lack of a wife, or lack of a partner, or lack of a business that's fulfilling, or lack of money, or lack of whatever, and you're feeling that and thinking that most of the day, then it's not that it's not helpful to start shifting that. It is, but it's just looking at, how much quantity, how much volume am I spending on one thing versus the other? Am I getting in the taxi cab and telling it 700 places I don't want to go? Or am I just getting in and saying, this is where I want to go, let's get there? And the other layer of that's a common challenge is that it's the energy behind the action we're taking. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So if we're taking action like, hey, I want more money, or I want to know what my purpose is, or I want to manifest a Ferrari, or I want to manifest my dream soulmate, which is something I work on people a lot with, is finding that soul aligned relationship that's going to be 1 + 1 = 10. But if they are trying to do those things from an energy of, I'm not good enough, or I need that to be happy, it takes a lot more time and a lot more effort than making those things a consequence of how we're feeling, which can involve some really deep shifting, reprogramming that supercomputer, making sure we're finding things that we can access right now to charge that heart battery, and using that metacognition to be aware of how our thoughts and the computer and the emotional navigation system are impacting each other, and checking in with ourselves to say, am I releasing any of those old emotional balloons without fearing them? Because we also don't want to fear, I can't feel all this sadness, I can't feel all this anger, or else I'm going to manifest it or experience it. No. Trust me, anything that's in the subconscious is going to be manifesting even harder than if you just let it to the surface. So that's, again, with our thoughts, like our intrusive thoughts or our nonsense thoughts or our fear thoughts. We don't want to suppress them. We don't want to fear them. We don't want to avoid them, because then they actually send a stronger signal out, because what we resist persists. They get more powerful. Same with emotions. We don't want to fear feeling sad. We don't want to fear feeling angry. We don't want to avoid any of those emotions. We just want to let them out, let the thought out, let the emotion out, and then that frees up the energy for us to consciously pivot.
So going to your example about manifesting the soulmate, I think one thing that could be valuable to touch on here, or maybe for you to explain, is how can we manifest something that's kind of out of our control? So let's say in business, there's a lot of things that, thinking about it, you can control to get outcomes that you want to get. How does that translate to attracting or manifesting your soulmate, which a lot of things there kind of feel like they're literally like outside of your control, because it's another person.
Yeah. Well, then you start trusting the law of the universe. You start trusting that there is something bigger than you out there. Whether that be God, whatever God looks like to you from whatever religion you're from, or whether that looks like the universe, or whether that looks like quantum physics, and whether you want to look at it like as from a mathematical or physics approach, a quantum entanglement or quantum physics approach, understanding probabilities, any of those, you want to remember that you're not in this game, in this reality alone. And those laws of attraction, or law of mirroring, or law of magnetism, or whatever, are going to work in your favor. You attract everything, whether it's things that you prefer or don't prefer, which I'm going to say with a lot of caution, because there's a lot of challenges that would potentially come up without people saying, are you saying I attracted cancer? Are you saying I attracted abuse? Are you saying I attracted? I'm not necessarily saying that. So specifically to this example of, and if anybody ever wants to get into some of those next level questions, we can. But for the sake of this episode, I think it's more helpful to focus on what we can start changing quickly. So let's look at soulmate, because a lot of what I do is help men find their soulmate. So you want to be what you want to receive. So I used to have really terrible self-esteem, and I attracted a lot of sort of codependent relationships, or what people call like the narcissist empath relationship. But even in that case, I was equally to play in those relationships, because both of us were coming from an energy of shame. So what we want to do is we want to start stepping into our authentic alignment, into our magnetic masculinity. Because if you are being the type of man who has self-compassion, who is emotionally intelligent, who understands his wants, needs, boundaries, and values, who takes care of his vehicle of consciousness, you're simply going to be more attractive to a higher, I'm going to be cautious about how I say this as well, to a higher quality of person in a relationship, somebody who also sees themselves that way. Does that make sense? So it's you do you. So if you want to attract your dream soulmate, you put that desire out there. It doesn't mean you have to pretend, oh, I already have a soulmate here with me, but you want to start feeling, what will it feel like to be with my soulmate? I'll feel fulfilled. I'll feel sexually satisfied. I'll feel excited. I'll feel seen. I'll feel heard. And in what ways am I going to make them feel that way? Do I have clarity on my wants, needs, boundaries, and values? Again, so at least some idea of what we are looking for, so that we're not hiring an HR director, putting them in a sales role when what we need is an accountant. So we do want to cultivate a little bit of excitement and clarity. We want to get that emotional supercharge of like, oh, it's going to be so much fun. Then we want to focus on other things in our life right now that bring us fun, that align us with that frequency, that align us with that energy, right? We want to start thinking thoughts that feel great, like, I am worthy of love, and I am accountable to eat my shit sandwiches when I'm not showing up well. What are my toxic patterns in a relationship? Where have I failed in relationships in the past? How can I do better? Not from a place of I'm not good enough. Again, it's that energy behind the action. Not can I do better because I'm not good enough, but can I do better because I want it to be 1 + 1 = 10. I don't want it to be a third and a third, hopefully making a whole. So it's sort of living in, imagine you want to, say you want a really great relationship, and you see somebody who has a lot of clarity, a lot of confidence, a lot of emotional mastery. They are vulnerable. They take care of themselves. They're inspired. They're healthy. They're inspiring to others. And they really are comfortable being totally open and authentic. They're not afraid to make mistakes. They're raw. Would you find that an attractive person?
Yeah.
Yeah. So be that. I had a client who came to me, wanted to manifest a partner. And he was showing me the dating app he was on and swiping women. And again, I'm going to be cautious because I sometimes inadvertently offend people. He was looking at what people could maybe theoretically call like 9s and 10s. But he was very physically unfit, quite anxious and depressed, ate a lot of fast food, beat himself up all the time, suppressed all of his emotions, didn't do a whole lot of fun activities, and spent most of his time playing video games. So was he at the frequency to attract and maintain a very deep soul aligned connection that is fulfilling and rewarding and exciting? You know what I mean? So sometimes with men, I'm like, okay, let's look at your house. Let's look at your nutrition. Let's look at your self-esteem. Let's look at your, let's look at what you are putting out there. Because pretending that people don't care about that is just a little bit unrealistic. It does not, now, I want to be clear, this does not mean you have to be perfect looking. It does not mean you have to have a lot of money. It does not mean any of those things. It just means that when you are in your authentic alignment and you are in self-compassion, you become magnetic. And when you have that clarity on your wants, needs, boundaries, and values, and you are showing up verbally, mentally, and emotionally, you are going to attract whatever is perfect for that. Now, sometimes what we attract in other people is clarity or mirroring of where our wounds and our sore spots are, which is why even some very soul-aligned relationships can be very activating or triggering. And if people haven't been given the tools, like some of the tools we've been talking about in episodes, in order to understand their emotions and understand the emotions of others, then it's hard to hold those relationships. Or if we get those relationships and then old programs of I'm not good enough, I'm a failure, I never amount to anything, that person doesn't care about me. If we start projecting our past onto them, we might lose that relationship. So we also want to do some of the work. But just as far as attracting them, or some people attract them and can't keep them. So again, it's about just not working on ourselves so that we're good enough for a relationship, but it's asking ourselves, in what ways am I showing up? And what is being mirrored back to me?
With this question, what you just said, not working so that we are good enough, even like with that, where it's coming from, because even like we're trying to work on ourselves to be good enough, it's kind of coming from a place of lack.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
and follow-up question here that I had was how important, because a lot of times I think the assumption might be that we sit and we try to manifest something externally, but what's the importance of going within when it comes to manifesting?
I think that there's a couple of perspectives I'd like to share about that. I think it's very important to go within and to find those parts. If we go back to our parts work episode, to find those parts, because we want to bring those parts out of our subconscious, especially the parts we judge or think are stupid or not good enough or shameful or unworthy. We want to take those parts out of the subconscious. We want to give them a seat at the table. We want to give them a chance to hold the talking stick so that they're not manifesting something different than what we would prefer, right? And what we resist persists. And if we don't give those parts of ourselves a seat at the table of our consciousness and give them a chance to hold the talking stick and mentor them, like if we have a part of us that's very passive aggressive or very defensive or things that are going to impede how we relate to ourselves and others, we want to be compassionate to those parts, because if we don't give them a seat at the table and let them hold the talking stick and hear them and make them feel love and belonging, they're going to do that hostile takeover from the subconscious. And that's what we call self-sabotage. I don't believe that self ever sabotages self. I think that anything we perceive that way is just an indicator or a KPI that we don't have all of our parts on board with the change, which is very helpful information. It's just awareness, right? It's not a judgment. It's just about awareness. It's saying, oh, imagine we have all of our parts, of multidimensional parts of our personality in a boat, like a rowing team. And we've got 3 of them paddling towards what we want to manifest. And we've got 2 of our parts that are just not aware that they're on a boat and they're not even paddling. But we have 5 of them paddling in the other direction. This is one of the other barriers to manifestation, is resistance. So if we have a part of us that's like, you want to go into a relationship again? Do you remember what happened to you last time? We were heartbroken. Oh, no, 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 no. So then it's going to be paddle, 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 paddle. And you're going to feel like it's like expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. So when we're trying to either reprogram a subconscious software or manifest something different, they're all kind of metaphors for the same thing. We want to lovingly and compassionately address any parts of us that are in resistance. Or say you want to manifest or create a lot more money, but you have a belief that your parents told you that people with money were greedy or selfish, and you think that being greedy or selfish is bad or wrong. So part of you is going to be like, we can't have money because money is bad, or money is the root of all evil, or or I can't be a show off, or whatever it is. We're going to want to really look at those parts so that, again, we're not going green light, red light, red light, red light, green light, red light, green light, red light. And that involves awareness. So that's why a lot of the order of the episodes we've done on this magnetic masculinity blueprint are very specifically designed in a particular order because I have been identifying certain roadblocks, barriers, and things that have to happen or that I commonly see blocking or stopping my clients or in my own life or in observing other people, so that we can experience more results more quickly with less struggling and less effort.
Here, the follow-up question, because you said that there's several parts of manifestation internal. Is there something external as well that is affecting it or impacting it?
Well, I think that, okay. So there's two things that are true. Everything that you need is within you. This is true. What is also true is that we are an interdependent species. We are. When we are born, we are not just, okay, we are not just birthed and then left there. We are a very interdependent species. So saying that everything you have is within you sometimes implies that you shouldn't need anybody else. So I'm cautious when I say that, because we are an interdependent species. And sometimes if you're on a healing journey or on a success journey or a manifestation, whatever kind of journey you are, it is okay to need external validation. I had a client very upset last week. It was like, I just, no matter how hard I work on myself, it's like I always need somebody else's external validation. External validation, like everything else, can be healthy or unhealthy, or helpful or unhelpful. Let's not even call it shadow and light. Let's just call it helpful and unhelpful. Pride can be helpful and unhelpful. Humility can be helpful and unhelpful. Confidence can be helpful and unhelpful. It's, it's all just depending on where on that pendulum swing it is. So this is no different. It can be very helpful to need other people, or it can be very codependent and unhelpful to need other people. It can be very helpful to go within, or in the case of myself for a while, that was a coping mechanism. And it was, I don't need anybody else because everything I have is within me. So again, I'm cautious about saying things without giving people more context, which can be a little more confusing to them because it's easier to just grasp onto everything I need is within me, or I need other people. But we're really not, it's sometimes just a little, there's some more nuances, there's some more context necessary. So yes, everything you need is within you, but if you need other people and you want to heal relational wounds, then doing it with a coach or a therapist or your partner can be very healing. And if you want somebody else to externally validate you and you have clarity that, hey, I want somebody else to reflect this to me, great, you're human. Some of our core needs of human being are appreciation, adoration, admiration, which again can be in a helpful or unhelpful pendulum swing. It's a spectrum. So do I like it when my clients say, wow, you've helped me change my life? Yes, I do. But do I need that to fill my can I be happy without that? Yes, but it's like icing on a cake rather than I need that to survive. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I also have a question.
Sometimes if we had a lot of external people in our childhood telling us you're not good enough, you're not good enough, it can be very helpful to get us from a 7 to a 9 if we get that reflection from other people. Now, eventually we want to become more autonomous, but we don't want to just be alone. We want to be 1 + 1 = 10. And we want to decide which people in our external reality are going to align us with that which we want to experience more of, and which are going to align us with less. And if we go back to one of our initial episodes for a minute, which I wasn't planning to do, but I think it's helpful since we're kind of interweaving parts work a little bit, because it is very impactful in manifestation or law of attraction, is like we've talked about before, love and belonging is the #1 biological, neurological, scientifically inarguable need of the human species, above all else. But what you're experiencing in your external reality is often a mirror to what's happening in your subconscious, which can be a very helpful way to bring all of those parts out of subconscious programming or suboptimal software into the light of our awareness, so that we can decide if they're helpful or unhelpful, if they need a little mentoring or a little reprogramming. Because again, if we don't even have awareness of who we truly are, and we're in that conditioned self rather than that authentic alignment, what we're trying to manifest probably isn't what we really want. And we're going to have all that internal conflict. And if we want to experience love and belonging externally, that will be a reflection of the love and belonging we have within our internal system, including our parts, which is why we do this part last, because you will already be good at this if we have gone through the magnetic masculinity blueprint and protocols, where we have stepped into authentic alignment. We've examined our parts. We've decided to install compassion for ourselves and radical compassion for others. We have learned to pilot our vehicle of consciousness. We now have some tools to know how to reprogram thoughts, how to use our emotions in a healthy way, so that you are the pilot of that vehicle of consciousness, and you are piloting it to your authentic alignment, and you become magnetic, and it becomes almost like an unstoppable force, because it builds momentum, just like self-loathing can build momentum, or self-criticism can build momentum, or anything that we don't prefer can build momentum. So then it's about that momentum and really finding clarity, or finding compassion for all of our parts, which is why we also eat our shit sandwiches, right? Because we want even those little rotten parts of us, or those little maladaptive coping mechanisms, the protector personalities, to have a seat at the table of our consciousness. So that, again, they're not in the subconscious going green light, red light, green light, red light, green light, red light, when we are trying to create, manifest, attract, experience something that our soul desires.
I had a interesting follow-up question here in regards of manifesting, because I think that the question was, is there also ways in which universe is communicating to us?
Yeah, the universe communicates to us all the time. And sometimes when we're very asleep, or we're very just stuck in our programming. So we're, again, if we're in that 90 to 95% of our perceptual awareness is subconscious, maybe only 5 to 10% of us is actually working on a goal, or is actually in awareness, or, means only 5 to 10%. Imagine you had it, before we answer your question, going back to what we were talking about, imagine you have 100 people in your company, but only 5 to 10 of them are aware that you're changing the company. So the other 90 people might be trying to do the old thing, because they're like, hey, we didn't know that there was a new change in the company. We're just running this old software. And there might be people in the company that are like, you want us to change directions and pivot? Oh, hell no, because they don't feel like they want to go to their comfort zone. So they're going to sabotage that effort. That's kind of what it's like. But back to your, wait, what was your question again?
If universe is communicating to us.
Right. So yes, the universe is. And when we're in that sort of really subconscious programming, like we're not in awareness, we often miss the ways the universe communicates to us. But it's never that it's not communicating, it's just that we're not aware. So going back to our episode of mindfulness, sort of slowing down and being present in the moment is not only optimizing our manifestation, because we're being more present, we're being more grateful. We're like, wow, somebody grew this celery for me. Somebody made a juicer, and somebody, like, I think about that. I'm like, look at all the people that were involved in me getting this celery that I then get to juice in this amazing piece of machinery that juices it and turns it into juice for me, that gives me all these easy bioavailable nutrients, gives me so much energy for the day. And I'm so grateful, and I believe in it working. So it works even better than it would even without my belief. And then I get into that abundant sort of gratitude practice, that mindful practice. And what do you think I'm going to experience? So when we're in more of those states, we're more likely to see or experience how the universe is communicating to us. The universe can communicate to us with songs, or with coincidences, or synchronicities, or repeating numbers, or symbols, or animals, or the universe is always communicating to you. It just also in our thoughts, in our ideas, 20 people in the world will get an idea, the same idea for a scientific creation or a book or something, right? It just depends how is our computer, if we're now a computer, I'm deviating from the vehicle of consciousness metaphor a little bit, but again, if we're a computer, or if that computer in the vehicle of consciousness, is it only running? Yeah, actually, let's go back to the vehicle. So is the computer in the vehicle of consciousness only running what it has now, and it can never change, and it's going to run all of those systems in our vehicle of consciousness, or is that computer connected to the World Wide Web? Is it connected to the World Wide Web with a very strong signal? Is it connected to the World Wide Web with dial-up? Is it connected to the World Wide Web and accessing really great things in the World Wide Web? Or is it accessing some crappy old database that doesn't update very often? So some people are very tuned into the World Wide Web. People used to call us intuitives or psychics. But everybody has that ability. It's just some people are born playing the piano really well. Some people have to learn it. Some people like me are born accessing the database very well, and some people have to learn it. And a lot of people are accessing it a lot of the time, but they dismiss it as imagination. They dismiss it as nonsense. Or they just don't believe in that stuff, and therefore they don't perceive it. Because it's not, because they get to choose. If they don't believe that's true and they don't believe that exists, then that is their right. So then that's not going to exist in their version, in their parallel reality or virtual reality.
This is one of the questions that I wanted to, yeah, definitely. I wanted to ask you about this, even like with manifestation, to anybody who's listening this far who might still be skeptic about it. Like, what is this about? Like, what's the importance of it? Even like what you said, that for some people it might not be there, they might be closed off from it. Like what's the value or what's the importance when it comes to manifesting?
Well, you're already manifesting. So you're already creating your own reality. So is your subconscious programs from before the age of 7 creating your reality, which consists of television, your parents. So are they creating your reality for you, or do you want to start piloting that vehicle of consciousness? Is your life crushing in all areas? If it is already, you're probably already nailing this, and maybe you don't need to do it. But if your life is not crushing in certain areas, what do you have to lose? And let's even just look at it from a very logical perspective. Again, say I want to create, I have a soul-aligned relationship, but say I wanted to create a soul-aligned relationship. And I got up in the morning and I was like, oh, I'm so lonely. And, why do my relationships never work out? And I kind of had that attitude through the day, and nothing ever works out for me. And, oh, women are all selfish anyways, or, like even bringing that kind of energy. Can you feel how that is not a receptive energy? I don't care if you believe in that stuff or yet or not, although modern science really is showing that it's not woo-woo at all. It's just not everybody got the memo yet. But does that feel like an energy that you are going to just have an amazing relationship? Or if you're somebody who's like, you know what? I've had some pretty crappy relationships. I wonder what role I'm playing in that. Do I have clarity on my wants, needs, boundaries, and values? How is my personality? Like, I had a client come to me. I adore him, but he's like, my relationships don't work. I think I'm about to get a divorce. And at work, I got this big promotion, but then they told me that none of my staff like me very much. And I just don't understand, because people just don't know who I really am. I'm a really good person. And I said, yeah, you are. But if you look at somebody who scowls a lot, who folds their arms a lot, who's very harsh when they speak to you, who kind of looks a bit sloppy all the time, kind of overweight and unhealthy, and isn't super nice to people, do you look at them and do you say, wow, I bet you they're a really special person underneath. I mean, maybe if you're me, I assume that about everybody, but in general life, you know, are you going to be the kind of person, you know, and he's like, are you saying I have a personality problem? And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's okay. That's just programming. You can change that. You know, are you going to look at a woman in your life who's like, house is a mess, finances are a mess, thinks they're awful and stupid and scowls and pouts a lot and is very sharp and rude at people? And are you going to be like, oh, no, probably not. So, or they're going to find each other and they're going to just fight until they get divorced, you know, like, and it doesn't mean we have to have a perfect body and a perfect job and a perfect education. I'm not saying that, to be very clear, but I am a huge fan of accountability. So when I worked with him, we started focusing on what are his authentic wants, needs, boundaries, and values. What are his limiting beliefs? How is he showing up? How much self-compassion does he have? How many, you know, and then we worked on eating shit sandwiches. Like, yeah, other people don't like you. That is true. But it's not because you are a bad person. It's because your software, you know, what you're putting out there is not what you want to attract back. So, or I work a lot with couples. I've had a lot of success with couples that have not had success previously. And I say, they're like, well, I want more praise, or I want more admiration, or I want to feel sexier. And I'm like, well, how much of that are you giving to your partner? And often it's not very much. So like, but they should know. No, they shouldn't. You know, be somebody that they're excited and attracted to and want to be around. You know, it's being what we want to receive more of. But again, not from a place of I'm not good enough, from a place of abundance. So let's finish this with an example. This is an example I used with you when you and I were working on some stuff. So we've got twin brothers, and they both want to have a lot of money in retirement. And they both want to retire early. Now, one of them has a belief that life is easy, and one of them has a belief that life is hard. They're twin brothers, and that can happen. Two different people can have a completely different experience of the exact same family. That's valid. So they're both saving. This is not a lot of money, but I like small numbers because it helps me. So both of them are saving $1,000 a month. Okay. Now, one of them is saving money like this. Oh my God. Inflation is so brutal. I mean, inflation does suck. And anyways, that's a different conversation. I'm going to have a Bitcoin conversation, but we won't do that. So inflation is not ideal. But if he's like, inflation's the worst. Oh my God, look at the price of gas. Oh my gosh, look at society. There's no money. Oh, and all the rich people are greedy. They've taken all the money from us. I hardly have any money. I'm probably going to end up homeless when I'm old. I only have $1,000 a month. Oh my God, I should be saving $5,000 a month, and I'm only saving $1,000 a month. My future is going to be bleak. Oh my God, look at how small the number is in my bank account. Okay. Now we've got brother number 2. He's saving $1,000 a month. And he's saving $1,000 a month from this energy. Wow. I would love to have more money. I think it'd be more fun. I think it'd be really fun to have more money. But I have so much money right now that at the end of every month, there's $1,000 left over that I can't even spend. There's so much of it. And I'm going to take $1,000 and I'm going to put it in a pot of money. And every month I'm making a bigger and bigger pot of money. And in the future, that pot of money is going to help me experience all these super fun things that I want to do, like sail around the world and like go traveling in a van. And I'm so grateful for all this money. And I'm really proud of myself that I'm good at managing money, and I'm a good saver. And I wonder if there's another job out there that could bring me even more money. But am I showing up at my job? Where in the world could I add value so that even more money comes my way? But look at how much there already is. So do you see, which one do you think is going to have more successful relationships, a more fulfilling life? And which one do you think is more likely to increase more and more money? And which one do you think is likely to I don't know, constantly have home repairs or constantly have the universe reflecting to that person that yes, everything is hard and everything is lack and everything is whatever. And who do you think is going to be like, oh, I found $20 on the street, or oh my God, I got the best parking spot, or oh my God, I just met this woman in a coffee shop and she was so excited by my energy and we just met and we connected. And so do you see?
Also, one follow-up question that I wanted to ask about, and maybe we can close off with this, about some practical tools like what if game that men listening could start applying in their life to start manifesting.
I love the what if game. So the what if game is something I invented to help us find that balance of focusing on what we want without bypassing, ignoring, or resisting that which we don't want. And this also helps a lot of my clients who are very successful, but they have a high amount of pressure. Like if you're moving $100 million a day around the board, or you're impacting hundreds or thousands of employees, you know, there's a level of stress that a lot of people don't necessarily relate to. So they have big, like, what if I blow this deal and 1,000 people lose their job? What if I blow this deal and my investors are out $25 million? What if, you know, they have a lot of these pressures. So this is one of the games that we play, because if they're constantly in worry, then they're probably adding to the probabilities. And we know through physics, like the double slit experiment, that everything is a probability. And that's also what explains the placebo effect. So we want to impact, we can't completely change everything with our thoughts. So let's not be ridiculous. It would take a lot of thoughts to turn this wave that became a particle in the form of a glass jar into a dog. That would require probably the entire planet thinking or timeline collapsing. So we're not going to be delusional manifestors. But we can shift probabilities where there is probabilities. So if we want to shift that probability, and we want to shift the probability in the company not failing or whatever it is, then we want to play the what if game and let out all the fear thoughts and all the fear emotions, so that they're not those emotional beach balls underneath the water, causing a lot of entropy in our system and sucking up all of our energy that we could use for creative problem solving. So we want to start playing what if, and we want to play out the worst case fear scenario so that we release all of that, because what we resist persists. So what if the company does go bankrupt? Well, that's going to suck. What does it mean? Well, I'm going to get fired. Will you for sure get fired? Well, I might get fired. Okay, so would that be the worst thing in the world? Could you get another job? Do you have enough money in the bank that you could live in a van on the beach? Is there somebody in your family who would let you sleep on their couch? And then they kind of they're like, okay, well, it's actually not going to be that bad. We're like, okay, what if you do let the investors down and you lose $100 million? Let's not say we'd love that, but let's play those out until they're not like this like huge triggering fear, right? Because then we're sending that fear and that signal out to the universe, up to the World Wide Web. So we want to face all those things. We want to say, well, I hate my boss. We want to just let whatever unconscious thoughts, it's everyone else's fault, it's my wife's fault. We want to let all the thoughts and all the feelings out. We want to play the what if game, chase it down to the core fear. And sometimes right in that moment, we can do a belief shift or a fear healing or a trauma healing right there and be done with it. Or sometimes it just involves sitting with those things until they no longer give us an emotional charge. But then we want to start shifting the what ifs. So I think an example I used when we did this before was a client I had who had a lot of money tied up in a warehouse, and it was also costing a lot of money a month, and he had been unable to sell it, and it was costing a lot of money. It was a very stressful situation. So he was thinking thoughts like, I'm ruined, I'm destroyed, I've let my family down, I'm going to be broke, I'm going to be homeless, this place is never going to sell, I can't believe I did this, I'm losing tens of millions of dollars, whatever. So in the what if game, it would be like, okay, what if, let's play this out. What if the worst case scenario happens? What if this doesn't sell? What are we going to do? What if, we also want to challenge, what if your family is happy? Like, what if your family does like you? What if your family isn't disappointed in you? How can we start shifting those thoughts? And how do we play the what if game? What if this building sells and it sells for more money than you thought? What if your family is really proud of you? What if in the future your kids like you more than they do right now? What if, what if you woke up tomorrow and you chose to exercise instead of have a beer at lunch? What if? So we can start to play the what if game in the positive as well as the negative. So we want to release any of those subconscious thoughts and fears and things that might be subconsciously manifesting for us a parallel or giving us that red light, green light. But then we want to slowly start shifting it, not from 0 to, look, I already have a soul aligned relationship and everything's perfect. We want to feel what that might feel like, but we want to start shifting our thoughts from 0 to hero, which sometimes involves some steps like, hey, I'm in the shit right now. This is a really scary situation. And what if there's a solution I don't know about yet? What if this company not working leaves way to a better opportunity that I can't even think of yet? What if the board of directors actually thinks I'm a really great person or thinks I'm really great at my job? What if? So if we're going to play the what if it doesn't work, let's play what if it does work. But let's not just bypass right to what if it does work. What if it does work? La 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 la. I can't look at it not working. La 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 la. Because that's fear and that's resistance. And then all of those subconscious feelings and all those subconscious thoughts are going to be in resistance. And we're going to be doing that paddling this way, paddling this way, paddling this way, paddling this way. So the what if game is just a way to, what if all the fearful thoughts, give me all of them. I'm like, give them all to me. Give me all the scary thoughts, all the feelings. Let's chase them down to their lowest, which is usually I'm going to be alone if we chase it down to the very end. So what's so wrong if you're going to be homeless? Okay, you're not going to have any food. You're going to be hungry. Is there, why is that going to be so bad? Why is that going to be so bad? Why is that going to be so bad? We chase it down to the worst case scenario and we're like, okay, would it be okay? Would we be okay if that happened? And it's like, yes. Would I prefer it? No. Like, we're not going to say it'd be fine. I don't care if it all fails and I'm homeless. It's just that sort of, if we have that underlying feeling of safety of like, I'm going to be okay, then it frees up all this energy to start going, what if there's a solution I'm not seeing right now? What if this is in everybody's highest good? What if there's a way I could show up differently? What if there's an expert out there that could help me navigate this? What if everything works out better than I ever expected? What if? So a lot of people spend time. I have a client right now who's having trouble, he and his wife are having trouble conceiving, and they keep fearing that they're not going to have a baby. And he fears that if they don't have a baby, they're not going to have a good life. He fears that if they don't have a baby, that he's going to be a failure as a man, that he feels all of these things. So I'm like, okay, what if you don't have a baby? Let's chase that down and find a way that you're going to feel okay if you don't have a baby. And if you keep adding 75,000 times a day, what if I don't have a baby? What if I don't have a baby? What if I don't have a baby? What do you think what kind of a signal do you think that's putting out? So let's face those fears. Let's heal some of those beliefs. Let's use that as an opportunity to optimize the vehicle of consciousness. And then let's start playing, what if things work out great? What if I adopt? What if I'm happy without children? What if I have 2 children? What if, what if my life is even more fulfilling than I can imagine right now? What if? So yeah, the what if game is, if you're going to spend so much time focusing on the what if, the negative, chase that down, let it all out, and then start focusing on what if something works out great and see which one feels better in your body. And as you start to shift that vibration, raise your vibration, and you can raise your vibration in any one of the different systems in the vehicle of consciousness. You can raise your vibration emotionally. You can raise it through the heart battery. You can raise it through eating different foods and making sure you have lots of units of energy. You can change it through changing your thoughts and reprogramming the computer, and all of those systems impact each other. So a multidimensional approach is great, but they all work together. So what if there was just a little more possibility than what we're willing to look at right now? Because if we believe nothing is going to work and nothing can happen, then even if we only look at the placebo effect, not the universe, it's going to be true for us. Now, we don't want to take that to the cuckoo place that I've definitely taken it at certain times in my life, where we're like, well, if I don't believe McDonald's isn't bad for me, then it won't be. Well, we also have collective rule sets on this planet, like gravity and like what our bodies require, and like a need for human connection. So we don't want to necessarily take this to a delusional or huge pendulum swing, which again, I've done. I used to believe that everything was a thought. So I was like, if I don't believe that that will impact me, it won't. And then I got some very dire health consequences. And I was like, okay, clearly there are also other rules at play here. So yeah, a balanced approach. And remembering that you can change I don't care what your program was last year or yesterday or 20 years ago. You can change anything now. And one of the ways we can do that is to deal with the resistance we have first, so that most of our parts at least are on board with the new direction that we're taking that company, or the direction we're going to pilot that vehicle of consciousness. And the Magnetic Masculinity Blueprint will actually kind of get you there. And then you don't have to focus that hard on this, because it'll actually already be a natural consequence of how you're showing up. And that's one of the beauties of this blueprint, or this process I've created to help people accelerate that experience of magnetic masculinity, or living life in your greatest fulfillment and flow.
Yeah, so that's manifestation. And as always, if you have questions, comments, feedback, you can comment them below if you're watching on YouTube, or there's always a link where you can submit them in all show notes in whatever platform that you're listening on.
Great. Thank you. We'll see you next time.